A very good day to everyone. I'm Lim Ziqi. I'm going to share with you all from 4 Biology Chapter 14, which is Support and Movement in Humans and Animals. Do you know what we are going to learn in this chapter? There are total 4 subtopics in this chapter, which are types of skeletons, muscular skeletal system of humans, mechanism of movement and locomotion, and also the health issues related to the human muscular skeletal system. Skeletal system is very important to support and for our movement. There are 3 types of skeletons, namely exoskeleton, endoskeleton, and hydrostatic skeleton. Exoskeleton functions to maintain our body shape and protects our internal organs. Exoskeleton can be found in animals such as grasshoppers and crabs. For endoskeleton, it can be found in mammals, reptiles, and amphibians, such as humans and birds. The endoskeleton functions to maintain our body shape and also protect our internal organs from injury. For hydroskeleton, it can be found in animals with soft body tissues. For example, this type of hydrostatic skeleton can be found in earthworm and also the caterpillars. There are several necessities of importance of support and movement in humans and animals. First, it provides shape. It also provides the mechanical support. The other importance include store materials such as calcium and phosphate, protects internal organs, and be a base for muscle attachment. Its importance also include produce blood cells and also enables movement of living organisms in search of food for survival, in search of shelter for protection, to search for mate for propagation, and to escape from their predators. Next, we are going to look at the muscular skeletal system of human. There are 2 parts of muscular skeletal system of human, which are axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. In this diagram, you can see the pink part. The pink part here is our axial skeleton, which consists of skull, rib cage, which are the sternum and ribs, and also the vertebral column, which are the backbone or spine. And the other part, the blue part here, will be our appendicular skeleton. We will be discussing about human vertebral column in the next few slides. In this diagram, you can see clearly the numbers of vertebrae in each part of the human vertebral column. There are 7 cervical vertebrae, 12 thoracic vertebrae, and 5 lumbar vertebrae. And the lowest part consists of sacrum and coccyx. Well, now we go to see the cervical vertebra. Cervical vertebra is the upper part here, upper part. The cervical vertebra consists of short spinal process, a wide and short transverse process, and also a largest neural canal, which is also known as vertebral foramen, and a small and flat centrum, which is also known as body. And it also has a pair of transverse foramina on both left and right side of the cervical vertebra. There are 2 parts of cervical vertebra, which is known as atlas vertebra and also the axial vertebra. Atlas vertebra is the first part of cervical vertebra, and it has no centrum. However, it has the articulating surface to fit with the skull. The main function of atlas vertebra is to allow us to nod our head. For axial skeletal vertebra, it is the second cervical vertebra. It has odontoid process that articulates with the facet of atlas vertebra's neural canal. The odontoid process is located at the part of centrum. And the main function of axial vertebra is allow us to shake, or what to say is to rotate our head from side to side. The next part is thoracic vertebra, which is the middle part of human vertebral column. Thoracic vertebra consists of long spinal process. And what is the function of its long spinal process? It is for attachment of neck and head muscles. The long transverse process is for attachment of back muscles, and it has a small neural canal, a thick and big centrum, and the transverse process, except on the 11th and 12th thoracic vertebra, have facets for articulation with the ribs. So this is the diagram and the structure of thoracic vertebra. Then we will look at the lumbar vertebra, which is the third part of human vertebra column. The lumbar vertebra is the biggest and strongest vertebra. Have you ever think that why lumbar vertebra is the biggest and strongest? Now we will going to see what is the reason. It has a short spinous process and a long transverse process for attachment of back muscles. And it has the smallest neural canal here. It is the smallest among 3 types of vertebra. The reason the lumbar vertebra is the strongest and biggest because it needs to bear the weight of the lower back of our human body. That's why it is the biggest and strongest and also the thickest. Then the lowest part of the human vertebra column will be the sacral and caudal vertebra. The sacral vertebra consists of sacrum and caudal vertebra consists of coccyx. Sacral vertebra has 5 vertebrae fused together to form a triangular bone. There are also 4 sacral foramina. As you can see in this diagram, there are 4 holes which are the sacral foramina, which acts as the passage for nerve and blood vessels. It also has the articulating surface to attach with lumbar at the top, pelvic at the sides, and coccyx at the bottom. For caudal vertebra, there are 4 vertebrae that fuse together and form a tapering end, which means it forms the tailbone. Then we will see the joints, the types of joints. There are 3 types of joints, which are fixed joint or synarthrosis, slightly movable joint or amphiarthrosis, and freely movable joint or also known as synovial joint. Fixed joint permits no movement and the binding tissue is fibrous. For example, fixed joint can be found in sutures between skull bones. For slightly movable joint, it permits slight mobility and the binding tissue is cartilaginous. For example, joints between the intervertebral discs. For the freely movable joint, it permits the maximum movement of our body, and the binding tissue is synovial. There are 5 types of freely movable joint. There are ball and socket joint, hinge joint, pivot joint, gliding joint, and saddle joint. However, in your syllabus, we only focus in ball and socket joint and also the hinge joint. We will look at the details in the few slides. Freely movable joints. This is the diagram that shows our freely movable joints, which is the synovial joint. This is the bone, and the red part here is the articular is the joint cavity which containing the synovial fluid, and the blue lining here is our articular cartilage, and the outer part of the joint is the articular capsule, and the inner part is the synovial membrane. Beside here, I attach with the function of this structure. The bone supports the weight of the body and also for the attachment of muscle, tendons, and ligaments. Bones also important for the storage organ for mineral. While for the articular cartilage, it allows the smooth muscle of bones and acts as a cushion that absorbs shocks and reduces the friction between the bones ends so that the bones do not wear out easily. For the synovial membrane, the red part here, it secretes the synovial fluid into the synovial cavity. And the articular capsule is the fibrous tissue that encloses and protects the joints. And the synovial fluid will serve as a lubricant and minimize the friction and is a source of nutrient for cartilage. Then we look at the movable joints of human. As I said just now in your syllabus, we focus on ball and socket joint and also the hinge joint. Ball and socket joint enables the movement or rotation in all directions, which means this joint allows the movement in 360 degrees. For example, shoulder joint between the humerus and pectoral girder, and also the hip joint, as you can see in this diagram, the hip joint between the femur and pelvic girder. For the hinge joint, it allows the movement of bones in one plane. That means the movement is only in 180 degrees. The movement is either up and down or back and forth. For example, knee, elbow, and phalanges of toes and fingers consist of hinge joints. So besides the joints and bones, support and locomotion system also depends on our skeletal muscle, tendon, or ligament. Skeletal muscles is a bundle of muscle fibers with a large supply of nerve and blood vessels. The skeletal muscles that works in pair and opposite direction is known as antagonistic muscle. For example, biceps and triceps are the antagonistic muscle. Triceps here, and the biceps here. And the tendons, as you can see here, tendon, its function is to connect the bone and the muscles. It is strong fibers and not elastic, but it is very flexible. Ligament connects the bone to bone. It is strong, elastic and tough connective tissue bundles that provide support and strength to joint and also allows the bones to be bent at the joint. Then we look at the movement and locomotion of human arms. The arms can be bent or straightening. When the arm is bending, the biceps is contracted. At the same time, the triceps is relaxed. When the biceps is contracted, the pull force is transmitted to the radius through the tendon, and the triceps is relaxed. The radius will pull the arm upwards, causing the arm to be bent. When the arm is straightening, the triceps is contracted, and the pull force is transmitted to the ulna through the tendons. At the same time, the biceps is relaxed. The ulna will push the arm downwards, which causes the arm to be straightened. And what happens when human is walking? The bicep femoris is flexor and the quadricep femoris is the extensor. First, when human is walking, the right calf muscle contracts, the first diagram here, and it lifts the heel. The ball of the foot will push against the ground. At the same time, the bicep femoris will contract, bending the foot at the knee joint, and the right leg is lifted now. As the right leg lifts the ground, the body weight is now supported by the left leg, which is still on the ground. And the quadricep femoris contracts to straighten the leg. And lastly, the tibialis contracts to bring down the heel. As the right heel touches the ground, the body weight is shifted to the right leg. The whole sequence will be repeated by the left leg now. Just now we look at the mechanism of locomotion in humans, and now we look for animals. The first animal is fish. There are several structures in fish which is very important for locomotion. First is the streamline shaped body. Fish has the skin which has a slimy coating which helps to reduce the water resistance. The myotomes on the fish is the muscle blocks that are arranged in segments on both left and right of the body of the fish, and the myotomes is connected to the endoskeleton of the fish. You can see in this diagram, this is the left side and this is the right side. Muscles are antagonistic. When the muscle on the left side contracts and the muscle on the right side will relax, and this causing the body of the fish to bend to the left. And when the muscle on the right side contracts, muscle on the left side will relax now. And this causes the body of the fish to bend to the right. But When the left and right muscle of the fish contract and relax alternately, the body of the fish will move from side to side, causing a forward push that propels the fish in the water. The swim bladders of the fish helps to keep the fish buoyant. Air can be got into the swim bladder of the fish to keep it float on the water surface, and air can be released through the mouth of the fish to enable to sink. And the fins of the fish is to control the movement and direction. Next is the bird. You can see in the left diagram here, the pectoralis major muscles contracts and the pectoralis minor muscle relax. And in this condition, the wing of the bird is pulled down. And what will happen when the wing of the bird is pulled upwards? The pectoralis minor muscle will contract and the pectoralis major muscle will relax. And if this happens, the wing of the bird is pulled up. The next animal is earthworm. The wave of segment elongation and shortening is repeated all along the body of the earthworm, which enables it to move forward. First, the posterior longitudinal muscle contracts and the circular muscular relax. The earthworm becomes shorter and thicker. In this diagram, you can see it clearly. And the kete of the posterior segment anchor to the ground, while the kete at the anterior segment release their holds off the ground. The circular muscle at the anterior segment contracts and the longitudinal muscle relax. The earthworm becomes longer and thinner. And the anterior segment, which is the front part, will extend forward. The kete of the anterior segment anchor to the ground, while the kete at the posterior segment release their hold of the ground. And lastly, the posterior segment, which is shortened, is pulled to the front, and this is the mechanism of locomotion of earthworm. Then we will also look at the grasshopper. When the grasshopper is at rest, its flexor muscle contract and extension muscle relax. Flexor muscle and extension muscle, as you can see in this diagram. The hind legs of grasshopper are folded and flexed, or we call it bend, and energy is stored in the tendons, which binds to the muscle to the exoskeleton and joints. And when the grasshopper is jumping, extension muscles will contract and the flexor muscles will relax. The hind legs of grasshopper is now straightened, and the energy in the tendon will propel the grasshopper forward. Then now we go to the third subtopic of this chapter, which is health issues related to the human musculoskeletal system. The first health issue is osteoporosis. As you can see in this diagram, osteoporosis. When we are getting older, our bone mass is reduced with the increasing of our age. So our bone will become porous and brittle, which is break easily. It occurs in old people and also the postmenopause women. And this osteoporosis occurs due to inactive lifestyle and unbalanced diet, which lacks of calcium and also insufficient of vitamin D, and the age, which is the declining activity of bone cells due to the old age, and also the insufficient estrogen hormone due to the menopause in women. So the symptoms of osteoporosis is fragile bone, reduced height, and also the stoop posture. Osteoporosis is known as hunchback, which is the back of the human is bent. The second health issue is known as osteomalacia. The left diagram here is the normal bone, and the right diagram here shows that the bones with osteomalacia. Osteomalacia is a soft bone condition due to the lack of calcium and phosphorus. It usually occurs among the adults, especially the pregnant women. When this osteomalacia occurs among children, it is called rickets. Osteomalacia is the softening and weakening of children's bones, which results in the bone defects. Next, we go through the arthritis. The common type of arthritis among elderly is osteoarthritis. Besides osteoarthritis, the other types of arthritis include rheumatoid arthritis and also the gout. Arthritis is caused by the decreased synovial fluid and the wear and tear of the cartilage in certain joints. The cartilage becomes thinner and the ligaments will shorten and lose some of its elasticity. And people with arthritis, its joints will become swollen, painful, and less flexible. Arthritis will restrict our daily activities such as walking. And the last main health issue is scoliosis. Patients with scoliosis has a backbone which bends to the side. As you can see, the diagram here, the backbone of the patient is bent to the side and form an S or C shape when viewed from the back. And it is caused by genetic factor or also the abnormal growth of the backbones during the puberty development. Then, now we go to the last subtopic of this chapter, which is the practices to maintain a healthy musculoskeletal system. First, to maintain a healthy musculoskeletal system, we must have a very good body posture. We should not slouch when standing or sitting. This is because slouching will exert pressure on our vertebral column, and this will cause the misalignment of our vertebral column. And a bad body posture will prevent our blood circulation and will suppressing the nerve and vital organs. That's why it is very important for us to maintain a good body posture in our daily life, no matter when we are walking, sitting, lying, or standing. The next good practice is exercise regularly. Through exercising, we can strengthen the joint structure and increases the flexibility of muscles and also the ligaments. Exercises can also help us to increase bone strength and the bone mineral deposits. Then we go to the third good practice is proper attire. We should always wear proper attire in our daily life. For example, we should use loose-fitting or stretchable clothes. This is because tight clothing will restrict our movement. And for the shoes, we should use the shoes that support the feet. For example, if high heel shoes, mainly in women, because women are the person who only wear the high heel shoes, will cause the body to tilt forward and cause the spine to curve more. And lastly, we also have to have a balanced diet every day. A balanced diet helps us to strengthen a muscle when we are taking diet which are rich in protein and vitamin A and D, such as meat and vegetable. And when we take in the diet rich in calcium and phosphorus such as milk, anchovies and sardines, we can strengthen our bones. We should always drink our fluoridated water for our bone strength and reduce the alcohol intake, as alcohol reduces the calcium absorption by bone. So we come to an end for today's sharing. Thank you very much for paying attention, and I hope and I believe that you all can score very well in your biology subject. Thank you everyone.